Hey everybody, welcome to Mom's Dinner. Here, we help adults feel successful at dinner time. So if that sounds good to you, would love to have you subscribe to our channel. So one of the dinners that we absolutely love here is chicken noodle soup. We have a full range of chicken noodle soup and just chicken soup recipes that we absolutely love. From Homestyle chicken noodle soup with those thick frozen egg noodles, all the way to a kid's chicken noodle soup that has no onions and no green stuff and everything in between. So today we're actually gonna make a creamy chicken noodle soup that has a really flavorful, creamy broth, plenty of veggies, plenty of tender cooked chicken, a little garlic, plenty of seasoning, and it's gonna be so delicious. So I hope you'll stick around today because for dinner, we're making creamy chicken noodle soup. This recipe is going to start with a really large pot. I like to use my 6-quart Dutch oven. It works perfectly for this recipe. Pop that over medium heat, and then you're going to go in with 2 tablespoons of your favorite cooking oil. I'm using olive oil, but you could use canola or vegetable. Then we're going to go in with something called a mirepoix, which is basically a fancy French word for carrots, onions, and celery. You want to chop these up so that they're in a dice, all roughly about the same size. And you're going to need 1 large onion, 4 carrots, and 3 celery stalks. Pop that down in the hot oil and get that softening for about 10 minutes, just so that the carrots and the celery start to soften. Then we're going to go in with 3 chopped or minced garlic cloves. We like to add our garlic a little bit later in the recipe so that it doesn't burn and that the garlic flavor is a little more pronounced. Now we're going to add some all-purpose flour to the veggie mixture. It's going to combine with the oil and make something called a roux, and that is going to help thicken our liquid when we add the chicken broth, and that's going to enhance the creaminess of our soup. So you're going to go ahead and add in 8 cups of a chicken broth or chicken stock. Generally in our kitchen, we love to use a chicken stock because it's going to be more flavorful than a chicken broth. And if you've made your own chicken stock, even better. Pull that out of the fridge or freezer and use it in this recipe. So once you get all of that liquid added, you want to give the pot a really good stir so that the flour and the oil combine with that liquid. At this point, we're going to partially cover the pot and let it simmer for about 15 to 20 minutes. Then after that, we're going to add some seasonings. We're going to add in 1 teaspoon of salt, half a teaspoon of dried oregano, a 1/4 teaspoon of dried thyme, half a teaspoon each of onion powder and garlic powder. And then we're going to add in a yummy little secret ingredient for our chicken soup. Half a teaspoon of ground turmeric is wonderful. It enhances the color of your soup, but it also enhances kind of the earthy, salty, umami flavor of your soup. Then add a little bit of black pepper, and now we're going to go in with something called chicken base. This is a super top secret ingredient for really good chicken noodle soup. You can find it in the soup aisle of your grocery store, and it comes in a jar or a tub, and it's in a paste form. You want to add 3 teaspoons down into the soup. Just give that a really good stir and let it melt down into the soup. We love the brand Better Than Bouillon. Okay, before we move on with this recipe, there's a couple ingredients that I want to talk about that we're going to add to the creamy chicken noodle soup next. So one of them is the creamy part of the chicken noodle soup. We're actually going to add evaporated milk. You can find this in the baking section of your grocery store. It comes in a can and it works so well to make your chicken noodle soup creamy. You want to make sure that you're not buying condensed milk. This will pour out like milk. Condensed milk is super sugary and looks like honey. So you want to make sure you get evaporated milk. The next thing we're going to talk about are the noodles that you're going to use for your creamy chicken noodle soup. Have you ever bought a can of Campbell's chicken noodle soup? It has kind of those very specific long noodles. Those are called Kluski Noodles. They will usually come in a clear package like this. Now I got mine at Aldi, and they actually have theirs called Spätzle Swabian Egg Noodles, but it's also the same thing as a Kluski noodle. So you will find these either in the soup aisle at your grocery store or in the pasta aisle, but they'll be by the specialty noodles, maybe like the, say, Amish made dumplings, wide dumpling noodles, and then you'll find the Kluski noodles. So that's what we're using here. Now, if you can't find the Kluski noodles, the other noodle that we love for chicken noodle soup are going to be in the frozen section. And those are a wide egg noodle that's frozen. They're super thick. It's not the same thing as a dried wide egg noodle that you would find in the pasta section. Now, if you like that dry wide egg noodle, use that for sure. We just prefer a little bit thicker, heartier noodle in our chicken noodle soup. Okay, so we've got those two ingredients. The next thing you're gonna need is obviously cooked chicken. So what I did for my cooked chicken is I actually just had a few chicken breasts, little olive oil, little salt, pepper, and I popped them in a 350-degree oven for, it was about 30 to 35 minutes. My chicken breasts were a little bit thicker, so they took a little bit longer. Usually with the thinner chicken breasts, I can get away with like 25 minutes, and then they reach 165 degrees internal temperature. Then what I did is I popped the hot chicken in my stand mixer with the paddle attachment. I ran it for about 30 seconds, and it shreds it. It shreds it perfectly and makes such quick work of kind of a tedious task. So we'll add that in as well. Just let the soup simmer for about another 10 to 15 minutes so that the noodles get nice and tender and all the flavors combine and the soup thickens up just a little bit. I am telling you, my mouth is watering. You guys are gonna love this creamy chicken noodle soup. It is just a perfectly balanced soup with a ton of flavor. So, you know, that chicken base that we put in, that adds just a huge punch of flavor to the broth in this soup. And then when we added that evaporated milk, it makes it the perfect amount of creaminess. So you don't have a thick, you know, gravy style soup. It's just a creamy broth that is so absolutely delicious. The shredded chicken is nice and hearty in there, and then the Kluski noodles that we talked about, they are so yummy. They have such a good bite to them. They're still nice and thick, and the veggies are tender, and all of the herbs and seasoning is just has tons of flavor. So my mouth is watering. I'm gonna just grab a little spoon here, and I'm gonna take a taste right out of the bowl. I want a little carrot, I want a little bit of chicken, I want some of those Kluski noodles. I've got one on the side there. There we go. Okay. Hopefully this is not smoking hot. I've let it cool for a little bit. Ready? Mmm. 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 I have to tell you, I also got Invisalign, so I have these little knobbies on my teeth. It makes it hard to chew right now. Whoa. Just an absolute burst of flavor. I'm telling you, you are going to love this recipe. Please, please, please make this recipe for dinner this week. And if you do, if you feel like it deserves 5 stars, let me know in the comments. I would love to connect with you in the comments. So until next week, I hope that this creamy chicken noodle soup recipe helps you feel like a success at dinner time. We'll see you next week.